Hey, Susanna, welcome to When Spirit Talks.
Hi, Stephanie. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I can't wait to hear all about your story and your journey because it's such an important topic. And I'd love to know how you became a life coach for special needs families.
Yeah, that is a great question. It certainly wasn't something that I was dreaming about becoming when I was a little girl and growing up. I had other sort of aspirations and ideas about what life was going to look like for me. But I really feel like the universe has other bigger plans for us. And the reason why I became a certified professional life coach and advocate for disability families is because I felt like I needed to teach what I most needed to learn. And so it wasn't until I became a disability parent myself in that I gave birth to a daughter, who has myriad challenges and disabilities. Her name is Arizona, and she is currently 18 years old. And so I've been in this world and in this experience for 18 years, pretty much. And so maybe 10 years ago, a little bit, maybe actually, no, not even 10, probably 13 years ago, 14 years ago, Arizona was pretty young. I just started, advocating for other families, not officially, but just in order to help out and be in community with others. I was certainly doing so much work on my own with regard to finding resources and support and services and funding for Arizona. And, ultimately, because I was able to sort of figure out some things early on, which, by the way, was no small feat. I mean, it was just, I find myself to be fairly resourceful and tenacious and educated, and it was still very, very, very challenging. And so I just wanted to share everything that I was able to figure out with other families so that it could be one less thing on our plate. So it just started off like that in terms of just sitting in the waiting areas of some of the therapeutic centers. Arizona was in so many therapies every week. And so I was able to be in community for the first time with other families like me, which was also really supportive and healing. And so it started off sort of like that informally. And then ultimately, it just moved into its own breathing and living, organic flowing business. And 10 years ago, Arizona's father and I got divorced. And so that's when I really was like, okay, full force, let's do this. I got to focus on sort of career and different ways to bring in money so that I can now um, be more supportive of myself financially and Arizona. So that's really kind of what was the kicker in terms of like turning it into an actual business. And it was just a very easy, flowy, organic journey to that point. I feel like all of the stones and pebbles were sort of, put together on this path toward what it looks like for me today. So I feel so grateful. It's my life, it's my living, it's my work. Everything is so integrated, and yeah, it's quite a ride.
Yeah, and it's so powerful. And I'm sure it's so helpful because you went through it. And when you live through something, it gives you so much knowledge and so much power that you can then impart on the other people who have yet to go on that journey or who are starting out or who need that assistance. So that's amazing that you're able to help people do that.
I feel really grateful. I feel really empowered by it. I feel like every family I'm able to help shine a little bit of light on in terms of, just even the moment that I'm in conversation with them or in connection or energy exchange with them. I feel so grateful because it was something that I did not find for myself early on. It was something that I was seeking for sure, and I just couldn't find it. I don't know if it wasn't available or if I wasn't ready yet. But either way, it is something that I think about all the time when I'm in service to other families. Like, this is something I so wish that I had, when Arizona was, 1, 2, 3 and getting diagnosed with this and that and this and that, I just felt so alone and so isolated. And I just feel somehow it's like making that time all make sense, all of the pain and the discomfort and the tears. I feel like were for something.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, what I think when you're talking is that you have this purpose in life, and life took you on this journey, which could have been chaotic and crazy and lovey all at the same time, but it was for a purpose, and this is it. Was there ever a point in your motherhood journey that guided you to turn towards spiritual practices?
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's like, how can you not? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just saying, like, it was so obvious to me that there was no other option or choice for me than to lean into something outside of me. And I will say that I started off life with, a little bit of a, intro into spirituality in terms of, my parents were very involved in the church. And so I was raised in the church. And so very early on, I definitely, had this sense that there was something greater than me, sort of in charge, that I didn't have all the power, right? In a way that felt like, safe and protected. And so I always feel like I've always been able to have this relationship with this other entity, right? My God, my God, my God's nice to me, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is, right? So I have always had that sense. I've always been sort of seeking out something more. And that's, for many, many years, that's all I could really describe it as. Okay, so what more is there? Like, so what else do I need to do? I'm so open and available and looking forward to be connected to something that's greater than me. I just have always had that sense. I just never sort of knew what that looked like exactly. And certainly, I would say, even today, I'm always sort of evolving and growing and transforming and learning about new practices. And oh my goodness, well, what about this that has been so supportive for you? That sounds amazing and in alignment. So, but certainly as a mom and in my particular journey with raising Arizona, and all of her challenges, she was very, very fussy and crying. She had so many food allergies. It took so long to figure all of that out. But, she was head to toe covered in rashes and eczema and just, again, so uncomfortable and crying. And I was crying. And so before she even had the diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder or ADHD or anxiety, it really started off with these severe food allergies. And I just was also going through my own hormonal ups and downs with regard to being a new mother for the first time and feeling so out of control. And so that showed up for me in that I wasn't able to access sleep at all. Every time I tried to settle and, rest, certainly I was exhausted, but I could not fall asleep. And so after 2 weeks of not sleeping, I was just a crazy manic, mess. And so that, again, I believe that everything is for us, right? So in those moments of challenge and depression and debilitating anxiety and just darkness, I just felt like I was in this, um, abyss of, misery and darkness, really. I had to literally like just vault. I literally like fell to the floor, fell to the ground. And I was like, okay, somebody please help me in this life. Like I need so much support. I am asking for guidance and for direction and for the right connection. And I am miserable and I don't want to be miserable. This is not why I'm here. you know, I am here to live a joyful existence and to share and spread this joy, among everyone else around me, my community. I knew from a very early age that I was here to touch other people's lives. For sure, this has always been so innate within me. But I will say that, I could have easily become so numb had I had a different introduction to motherhood in terms of like, oh, I mean, my baby's taking a nap. Oh, it's so great, right? Let me go to sleep when my baby sleeps. All of that, all of the fun things we hear from others who have like super blissed out, pregnancies and newborn phase, and that was just absolutely not my experience.
It's really tough. So your journey sounds heartfelt and incredible in just the way that you were able to manage yourself and your own needs and your daughter's needs amongst everything else that you had to go through. And I think me myself, when I started, so I just have one daughter, um, and like you, I did not sleep at all. I was wrought with so much anxiety, so much fear. And my daughter, she would sleep, but 20 minutes at a time. So it was 20 minutes. And then she'd be up. And I had some support, but it's tough when you're doing it by yourself and you're caring for a child whose needs are sometimes you don't even know what they need and you're just struggling to keep it all together. And so, as a mom who dealt with that anxiety and that fear and that lack of sleep, I totally understand and empathize with that. And I'm sure there's so many other people that do. Was there something that really helped you get through that?
You know, I I'm so, well, I'm glad that we can really feel each other because that feels so supportive to me in that even now, years away from that time, again, my daughter is 18. And by the way, I also have one daughter, and it's like, I wanted to have so many kiddos. I had this vision. Everything has been sort of unexpected for me the last 18 years, but it really wasn't just one thing. It was tapping into all the little things that I felt could be supportive, even in just like this very moment. And, but certainly I would say like the biggest learning for me during that time when I, again, was feeling so out of control and powerless was that I actually had to seek out help. I had to actually ask for help and receive it. So that is actually not something that is part of my sort of core philosophy in life and characteristic and quality. I'm a very sort of capable go-getter, independent. I have been my entire life. And so I felt it was such a foreign feeling to me to number one, oh, I think I need help. Number one, need help. Like in my head, I'm thinking it. That's how it started. And then, the floodgates sort of opened after that because I was so, depressed and manic and worried about like, okay, I can't make myself feel better. I can't access what can make me feel better. Now I have to take care of this little baby. I'm so scared. What am I going to do? It was a very, very, very scary time for me. And so I just started, reaching out to, whoever I could think of. Obviously, my mom was a mom already. I have multiple siblings, and one of my sisters was a mom already at the time. But other than that, I didn't know a lot of moms. I was kind of the first of my girlfriends to have a kid. But my husband at the time had a friend who had a 2-year-old. And so I reached out to his wife, and again, it's just like, being able to just, activate what is going on in the inside, like in terms of just voice activation. I felt like that was so powerful. I was like, I don't know if this is your experience. I can't sleep. I'm crying all the time. I don't know what's wrong with me because this is all I wanted was to become a mother. And here I am, and she was like, "Oh, Susanna." She's like, "Yeah, I had to take medication for, 8 weeks or whatever." And I was like, "What did you say?" Medication, And so that just sort of opened the conversation. And from there, I was linked to other, people, how energy works, right? It's just like you're seeking something and that thing is just seeking you at the same time in different ways. And I just felt like that's how it all flowed. And, I never would have known about her experience had I not opened up to her. It's not like she would just start off a conversation. By the way, I'm so depressed that I needed
Yeah.
medication. But that to me immediately made me feel like I'm not alone. Like we had completely different situations, but, right away I was like, oh, you had a hard time too, you know? And so again, yeah, just seeking out help, asking for help, understanding that I needed help to the point that it was like non-negotiable,
Yeah, the point that I loved that you made was about asking for help, but also the receiving help. Because I get it, and so many women and so many people are very similar in that we always feel like we have to do everything ourselves, or we try to do everything ourselves, and we often don't reach out for help when we need it. And even if we do ask, we kind of retroactively like take it back, like, no, 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 it's okay, I can do it myself. But the fact that you were able to then receive that help is amazing. Also, when you were speaking, I don't know if you have a grandmother.
Not
Is sh
alive.
yeah, she's okay. Yeah, so
Yeah.
she when you were talking about how you got this idea, and I'm getting chills all over now, this idea to get help, it was like this was sent from her. She was the push that you needed for you to realize that, like, I needed to get help, and I just have chills up and down right now, so I just needed to tell you that. Um, oh,
That is, that's so interesting and it's so beautiful and it's so amazing because my maternal grandmother has always been my person, and she passed away when I was 10 years old.
oh, wow.
So, her name was Daisy. And so I feel like every year, literally every year, I remember her birthday, like without even thinking about it, January 12th. And so I have this spirit, her spirit is forevermore in me. And I feel like, when I was going through postpartum anxiety and depression, the first thing the doctors asked, which by the way, they were like, yeah, no, you just need to sleep. You just like need to get a nanny or something. And I'm like, no, I'm so anxious. I don't understand. It's not about the sleep. I can't fall asleep. Right. Anyhow, that's another story. But I felt like, so I asked my mom, because they're like, typically or usually it's genetic, you might want to ask, people in your family. And so I did. And everyone's like, no, 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 we didn't have that experience. And I was thinking, well, Grandma Daisy, I'm sure she did. You know why? Because she lost three sons. Two, twins were born early and she lost them. And then she lost another son. And I want to say that one of them or two of them were like even 6 months old and she lost them, and so I was like, what about grandma? No, I don't remember anyone. And I'm thinking, there is no way. And my grandpa was away at war, right? World War II fighting. So my point is maybe that was that. I mean,
Yeah.
for sure there is that um that energy connection that is not visible. I feel it all the time.
Yeah, she was there with you then in that moment, but she's here with you now as we're speaking because this whole time all I've been getting is chills. So just an FYI, she's there with you and it's just her reminder like that cheerleading moment where it's like you're listening, you're doing. So, yeah, I had to share that with you.
Thank you. I love that so
You're
much.
welcome. You're welcome. And I know you talked about finding joy. How did you find joy while you were navigating your parenting journey?
Well, yeah, that is, the biggest mystery of all time. I feel like, again, sort of incrementally in tiny little pieces, tiny little digestible chunks, I was able to access moments and glimpses, um, glimmers of joy throughout the journey. It was very, very challenging for me to access early on because I felt like I was like, okay, well, no, 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 it's not about me. I am in sort of go mode. It's about taking care of this little being that cannot take care of herself. Right. So initially, I wasn't even allowing myself to be able to understand that joy would be available to me in this moment in my life. Right. I was like, this is not the season, for me to experience joy. But interestingly enough, it was the season where I most needed to experience joy, right? So I realized that, a couple of years in, I was like, okay, this is unsustainable if I can't find ways to access like a little bit of happiness, a little bit of something. And I started off like just really, really, really little, like really slowly and little, like, okay, what is going to care for my soul today? What is going to be, self-care for Susanna today? What is going to be, maybe have me, crack half a smile today? And it was always something like, oh my goodness, I have these yummy leftovers. I'm going to make a delicious like stir fry for lunch. And I'm just going to sit down and eat my whole lunch while I sit down. And even if Arizona cries while I'm sitting down, I'm just going to sit down until my lunch is done, like little things like that. And or I'm a big journal writer, so journaling to me is just a necessary non-negotiable in my life. And so I would set aside the time. What was great about Arizona being in so many different therapies and her being my only child is that when she was in the therapies, I was sitting on a couch. I was sitting in the waiting area. I tried not to run errands or do everything I needed to do on my to-do list. I was just like, okay, let this be my time and this moment to just be in this moment, take a breath, take multiple breaths, and then pen to paper and let it flow. And that to me was extremely cathartic and therapeutic. And I just felt like whatever little bit I can get today, I'm going to take it. I am going to consciously, keep seeking out these moments where I can have um, experiences of, a little happiness. And it really just started there, and it's grown for sure. And by the way, some days I still can't access, what I wish I could. And I always think, okay, but the sun is going to rise tomorrow. The sun is going to rise again. Hopefully, I will be arising with the sun. I want to be arising with the sun. So I will try again tomorrow, and everything is okay.
That's beautiful. That is such a beautiful way to really look at it. And even just like you said, we have a lot going on in life. So just finding a moment to reconnect with yourself and do something that brings you joy, it's super, super important. Now, in your work as a life coach, how do you support and advocate for these special needs families?
So it shows up in a lot of different ways. So I work with families in, one-to-one settings. I do connection circles and workshops. I've done speaking engagements. I, sort of advocate for, families that are at my daughter's school. A lot of it is just sort of word of mouth, like, can you help my friend who da da da, can you lead them? I help them really advocate for themselves. It is really, certainly I can assist with sort of the practical and logistical aspect of raising a child or children with disabilities. And, it really is my intention to help heal the entire family, with my work. And I believe that it is a whole family opportunity for us to all lean into our various practices of finding out who we are authentically at our core. Firstly, sort of having so much compassion for ourselves, and then, just really honoring our child or children, everyone in our family, really, for being, whole and complete and perfect for, exactly as they are. So I usually just start off with that, like, okay, so tell me about you. What's going on, And that, can last multiple sessions, as you know. And it's just because we need to feel seen and heard and not alone. And I am so happy to be that space. I can hold that space for others very, very well. And I feel like I'm so grateful that I can. And at the same time, as I am, in service to others, it's like it just comes straight back to me. I feel so energized after every sort of interaction. Like after this, conversation with you, Stephanie, I'm going to be like jumping off the roof. No, actually, I need to make dinner. So, but anyhow, but I will think about maybe I'll dance around my kitchen. I will be so energized in a way that feels like, I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is why, you know?
Yeah, it's when you follow your soul's purpose and your life's purpose, you have so much energy and you feel like full of life because you are following that truth. So that's incredible. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, I know you wrote a book,
Yes.
and is there a favorite message that you want to share about it?
Yeah, so my book is called Your True Self is Enough: Lessons Learned on My Journey Parenting a Child with Autism. And it's about the story of raising my daughter, who is simply known as the letter A in the book. That was sort of a compromise. She's older now. She's like, I don't really want people to know it's me, even though everyone knows me and that she's
Mhm.
her daughter, that she's my daughter, rather. But I feel like the messaging is all about sort of leaning into each individual. And this also includes ourselves, right? So looking at ourselves, like, who are you, Susanna? Who are you intrinsically at your core? What are you here to present to the world? What are you here to give back? How are you here to be connected to, your own center? But firstly, like, who are you? Things have sort of gotten muddled along the way. But when you came into this world, who were you? Who were you on
Mhm.
this earth, in this form of being a human? So I feel like my message to everyone is like, again, we are here. Every day is just a practice for us to, have the opportunities to lean into a life that is an awakened life, and to have these experiences that are transforming for sure, but also, guiding us back into, who we are again, like authentically, um, at our very core. And, I just feel like everyone needs to know that they are exactly who they're supposed to be in this world. We have all of the tools and everything we need within us. A lot of things have not been activated, but everything is within us. And I say we just lean into the messages and the direction and the guidance, ask for help from, the unseen as well as the seen. Like, guide me. I want to fill in the blank. It's important for me to have these values in my life. It's important for me to have these experiences or to feel this way, and things will come. And so I feel like we always have so much, sort of deficit based language when it comes to comparing ourselves with other people. And certainly in the disability world, there are actual measurements and, tracking devices and all kinds of assessments that literally, compare, my daughter at 18 with all of these other, people at 18, which, as we all know, is a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, because we have all had different, experiences. And we come from so many different backgrounds. And I just don't understand why we think we just have to compare everyone to everyone, but we do it ourselves, as women, as mothers. Oh gosh, how does that mom always have her hair so nice every
Yeah.
day? She takes a shower every day. Like, that's fantastic. Um, so it's it's like, staying inward. Um, I think it's doubly hard, honestly, living in Los Angeles. It's just we see a lot of perfect people around. Again, we never know what's going on. We never know what someone's going through, and at the same time, the pressure can be really great. So I feel like, yeah, the compassion, focusing on, okay, what are my unmet needs today? What are the things that I'm triggered about? And let me take that back to other times that I felt this same way. And it usually takes me back to, the age of 7 or the age of 10, or like, oh, ouchie, that was an ouchie. Let's think about that. That's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And returning to yourself, the question that you posed and that you talk about in your book, it's a really important question because just like you said, we tend to forget like um, who we are when we were kids, who we are now with everything else that we have to deal with. So yeah, that's really beautiful that you share ways to kind of come back to that in your book. So
Mhm.
definitely, whoever's listening, go check it out. And I want to dive into the spirit segment now.
Yay.
So, I want to know, what is one thing you always include in your daily routine that helps you stay grounded and balanced that might help others do the same?
Yeah, and I will be very transparent and say that this does not happen every single day because some days I just am not in the space. Like, a situation has happened, or my daughter's having, a meltdown first thing, or has been awake all night, or whatever it is. Okay. So let's just give ourselves a little bit of grace. What I would like to be doing every day. But although I will say too, it really just depends on the day. But I think the practice that I would offer up is that I'm always asking myself every day throughout the day, what is sort of like, what does, again, soul care look like for me in this moment, or within the next couple of hours, or this afternoon, or this evening when I know I have like 3 back-to-back meetings? Like, what is that going to look like for me today? And the perfect example for today is that I actually had a pretty busy schedule today, full schedule, and my daughter's back in school. So that means, also homework and, schedule, and, she needs assistance with, food and all of that. And so, but I had scheduled a lunch meeting with a colleague of mine who I adore and love. And I was so looking forward to this lunch meeting. And I was looking at my day and I was like, okay, but I have this, 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 and I'm going to be feeling so rushed, and I'm going to be feeling so like not really fully present. And so I just said, hey, today's a day, and I would like to take a rain check and meet up with you next week when I have this energetic space to be able to be so much more present. And that was received with, got it, go get the day, kind of thing like that. And so to me, that was like the most supportive thing I could do for myself today. Um, and every day is different, but I do like the practice of just sort of checking in with myself multiple times a day, you
Yeah,
know?
that practice is so important. And I do like to say too, like I have my little routine that I do every morning. But yeah, sometimes life gets crazy and you forget or you can't do it. And it's okay, you move on. But yeah, checking in and just finding something that you can do for yourself is
Yes.
super, super important. Now, do you have a favorite story regarding your connection to spirit?
Oh, I feel like I have 5 million. And I feel like you just shared with me one today. In fact, if I may expand upon Daisy,
Yeah, yeah,
because I feel like, so many things are coming together right now in my life. So many like, dots are being, um, connected. Okay. And that's no coincidence, right? We know that that's not a mistake. And so I am an avid reader. I love going to the library, especially with my daughter, and we just love books. We love like physical books. And so I went to the library the other day and I was like, I'm just trying to find, like a fun fiction story that, is just a nice, reprieve for me in my serious world, right? So I'm looking, looking, looking. I can't find a book, can't find a book, can't find a book. And, I'm sort of like opening different books from authors that I like. And nothing was really calling to me. And then, I was kind of walking out of the library and I was like, let me check one more thing. And there was this book that was, how sometimes they put at the end of the aisle, like a book on
hmm
display or 2 books on display that aren't in the. And so I was like, oh, what is this? And so I opened the book and the character's name was Daisy Shoemaker. By the way, that is my grandmother's full maiden name.
no
Okay.
way.
Yes. And so here you are. This was 4 days ago, Stephanie.
Oh my
So
gosh.
so I have to say, like, just even the affirmation that I mean, again, like she passed away when I was 10. What can I remember? Not much, except for her spirit and her energy. And so I'm so grateful for the reminder that she is one of my guides.
Yeah.
She's looking out for me, and I'm going to lean into that starting now
Yeah. Call
in a
on her when
way,
you need.
in a way that feels more intentional and proactive, as opposed to like, oh, great, thanks for being on my side. You know what I mean? So isn't
Mhm.
that crazy, but not crazy?
Yeah, I always say there's no coincidences.
Yeah, 0%.
Everything has a reason and a purpose. And this was, again, probably just your reminder to
Mm,
call on her. She's always there, but I love that. I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
yeah. Yes.
And what is one final piece of advice you have for listeners who are trying to improve their spiritual well being?
Yeah, so I think, I always love to start off with having the self-compassion because I feel like sometimes we get in our way of being like, well, I'm a horrible meditator, or like, I just don't like yoga, or, all my friends are going to sound baths and I can't get into it. So I say, take away all of the noise, take away all of the to-dos, take away all of this sort of external, ideas and understanding of what spiritual wellness is,
Mhm.
and just again sort of like lean into your own, like, at your innermost, you know heart, like the deepest desires of your heart. We can start peeling back the layers. They might be, so layered at this point, but it's way down deep in there, and so that's where we start. And I feel like a lot of times, first of all, I feel like, sort of paying attention to our spiritual wellness and wanting that to be a very big sort of, delicious part of our lives, the intention for that really shouldn't be another sort of like, checklist off of our to-do list, by the way, that will never end for the rest of our lives. Our to-do list will never end for the rest of our lives. Just
Never.
newsflash. So, I have a client who was just like, oh, Susanna, but it's so amazing that journaling has been so great for you, but I just can't. It's just not something. And I was like, yeah, journaling's not for you.
Mhm.
At all, that's perfectly okay and fine, So just again, like just tapping into the consciousness of yourself, your needs, your desires, your innermost desires. Nothing is too, big or small to say out loud or to just, speak out loud. I believe that when we start being connected to, you know, where we are feeling lack, where we are feeling like, a void is what we need to pay attention to the most. And so the more that we can sort of intentionally be like, okay, something's here for me, not sure what yet. I want to remember that something is here for me and just keep pointing that out, and things will just show up for you. Um, it just bends all the time, you know? I know
Yeah.
you know. I know
I
Stephanie.
know 100%. And I always love how you continue to talk about tuning into yourself and using that intuition. And again, like everyone has their own thing that they resonate with. Like for me, like when I found Reiki, it was like, okay, this is it. But for other people, like you said, it's yoga or journaling or reading or walking or whatever it is, just like finding that one thing that you're in tune with is really, really helpful. Now, Susanna, where can our listeners go to learn more about you?
Yeah, so I have a website that's pretty comprehensive and has everything there that you can learn about me and my work and my offerings. I have an online course for empowering special needs families to live a life of thriving, live a thriving life, or at least, try to, or have have intention to, whatever. And my book there's a link to my book for sure. I have my book is also on Amazon, so you can get it there. On Instagram, I am at Mama Peace, MAMAPEACE. And my website, I'm going to say it out loud, then I'm going to spell it. It's my first, middle, and last name.com. It's www.susannapeacelovell.com. And that is SusannaPeaceLovell.com. And I just want to give a little shout out to my parents for giving me the middle name Peace back in
Mhm.
1974 when that was not like a cool thing to do. And I just feel like, honestly, it has been my connection to this greater, quest for peace in my life. It's like what I need to seek out the most, in addition to delicious, juicy joy.
Mhm.
So thank you, mom and dad.
Aw, that's so sweet. Now, before we go, I pulled a card for you,
Okay.
and I'm going to show you what it is. Okay. So you got the Daughter of Swords,
Mhm.
and this card represents you as someone who always tries to meet obstacles with truth, knowledge, and curiosity. So I love how you were describing yourself and
Mm,
like
yeah.
I was like, "Oh, this card, it's like
Mhm.
great." But also how it ties in with your work and how you support your families and help them work through their challenges by guiding them with your words and your messages. And exactly like you're a writer. So I thought that was great.
I love that. That is so I love that's so great because it reminds me to, sort of get out of my way when I feel like, "Ugh, I have to do. I have to do this," right?
Yeah,
So,
it's like getting out of your head sometimes and
yes.
doing that clear cut, like, let me just get to it type of thing. So, yeah, that was cool. And I want to say the message for everyone else who's listening is to approach a situation from a more logical perspective and speak your truth. So, remain curious and follow through with any new ideas. So, Susanna, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you being here, and I'm so glad Grandma Daisy came through.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much.